Most women underestimate the silent storms that rage inside a man after he loses the one woman he knows he cannot replace. He may stand tall, speak with strength, and carry himself with pride, yet beneath that armor lives a battlefield of emotions so deep, so forbidden, he dares not speak of them aloud. For men are conditioned to conceal, to harden, to pretend that loss does not reach them. But when the right woman, the one who touched not only his body but his soul, walks away, the fracture runs through his entire being. The first forbidden emotion is regret. Though it rarely arrives gently, it creeps in like a shadow at night, whispering of missed chances, careless words, and moments of neglect. He replays the smallest memories with haunting detail. The way you once laughed at something trivial, the warmth of your hand resting effortlessly in his, the glow in your eyes when you felt truly seen. And in those echoes, he realizes how casually he let that magic slip through his fingers. You see, regret in a man's heart is not just sadness. It is a war between pride and longing. He wants to believe he is unshaken, yet deep inside, he knows the truth. He lost a woman who awakened parts of him no one else could reach. And when a man realizes he has squandered the rarest kind of intimacy, the kind where two souls mirror each other, that awareness becomes unbearable. The second forbidden emotion is obsession. After losing her, he may try to escape by drowning himself in distraction. Another woman. Relentless work. Endless nights scrolling through meaningless noise. But obsession does not loosen its grip so easily. It sharpens itself in silence. He studies your absence like a phantom, searching for signs of your presence in everything. A fragrance that reminds him of you lingers in the air, and suddenly his chest tightens. A song plays, and his breath catches, as if the universe itself conspires to keep you alive in his memory. And here's the secret most women never see. Men often hide their obsession beneath indifference. He may not call. He may not reach out. He may appear detached, even cold. But in the solitude of night, he replays every word, every fight, every tender moment, until it consumes him. It is a hunger he dares not admit, for to confess it would strip away the last veil of his pride. Yet there is something you must understand. Obsession is not born of strength, but of fear. Fear that he will never again feel the depth of connection you gave him. Fear that he has witnessed his only chance at true love, and it has slipped away forever. The third forbidden emotion rises from this fear. Envy of your freedom. While he carries the weight of regret and the ache of obsession, he imagines you walking lighter, living brighter, smiling with the kind of ease he can no longer summon. In his heart, he envies not just your joy, but your resilience, your ability to choose yourself over him. This envy festers into silent resentment, though it is not hatred of you, but hatred of his own inadequacy. And still, he will never admit it. He will never tell you that he watches from afar, feeling the sting of seeing you glow without him. He will mask envy with detachment, conceal regret with bravado, and bury obsession with silence. Yet these emotions churn like fire beneath the surface, hidden even from his closest companions. Because to a man, vulnerability is dangerous, and to reveal that he is haunted by the memory of a woman who cannot be replaced, when it is to admit a weakness he has spent his whole life trying to deny. But you, the woman who knows his soul, can sense it. You feel it in the way he lingers, in the way his eyes betray him when your paths cross, in the subtle energy that cannot be disguised. And deep within, you know the truth. No matter how far he runs, no matter how cold he pretends to be, he cannot escape the forbidden emotions you awakened in him. The fourth forbidden emotion that men feel after losing the woman they cannot replace is shame. Shame is heavier than regret, darker than obsession, more corrosive than envy. It is the silent poison of the masculine heart. The emotion men will do anything to conceal, for shame is tied to identity. When he loses you, the woman who held the mirror to his soul, he does not just feel the loss of love. He feels the collapse of who he believed himself to be in your presence. Shame whispers to him in the quiet hours, "You weren't enough." It taunts him with the knowledge that while he may appear strong to the world, he was fragile in the only place it truly mattered, with you. For it is in love that a man's deepest self is revealed. And when that love slips away, he fears it confirms his worst suspicion, that he was never worthy to begin with. And here lies the paradox. Men are taught to measure themselves by their ability to conquer, to achieve, to provide. Yet when faced with the loss of a woman who touched his soul, none of those measures matter. The money, the status, the victories, they are dust against the one truth he cannot erase. She did not stay. And if she did not stay, he believes, then perhaps he was never enough. You may think he moves forward unscathed. You may see him laugh, charm, and even court another. But beneath that facade, shame gnaws at him like a hidden wound. It makes him doubt his worth, even as he denies it. It drives him to chase validation elsewhere, though no victory soothes the hollow ache of knowing he failed where it mattered most. But there is something even more dangerous than shame. Something men fear to face, for it is the final forbidden emotion that strips them of all illusion. That emotion is grief. Grief is not the simple sadness of missing someone. It is the mourning of a soul-deep bond, the death of a future imagined, but never lived. For when a man loses the woman who cannot be replaced, he does not merely lose her. He loses the story he once carried in his heart. The vision of growing older with her hand in his, of the laughter shared in small, ordinary moments, of the silent knowing that only she could bring. Grief, for a man, often appears as silence. He will not speak of it, for to name it makes it real. Instead, he swallows it, buries it, carries it like a ghost within his chest. He convinces himself he has moved on, yet grief lingers in his bones. It waits for him in the spaces between distractions. In the quiet hours when the world grows still, and hears the truth most women never see, grief transforms him. For some men, it hardens the heart, turning them cold, closed, unwilling to risk vulnerability again. For others, it awakens them, forces them to confront themselves, to finally face the depth of what they once ran from. Grief either destroys or remakes, but it never leaves a man the same. You, the woman who walked away, may never witness the depth of this transformation. Yet know this: the mark you left does not fade. He may find another. He may smile. He may love again. But in the recesses of his heart, the memory of losing you remains carved like an ancient scar, not to torment him forever, but to remind him of the magnitude of what he once had and could not hold. And so the 5 forbidden emotions, regret, obsession, envy, shame, and grief, become his hidden companions. He may not confess them. He may not even name them. Yet they shape him in silence, altering the way he sees women, love, and himself. But now the question turns to you. For what does it mean to be the woman who carries such power in a man's soul? How do you stand in that knowledge without being consumed by it? The answer lies in feminine strength. The ability to witness his hidden storm without being pulled into it. For his forbidden emotions are his to bear, not yours to heal. There is a mystery in the dynamic between man and woman that psychology alone cannot fully explain. For when a man loses the woman he cannot replace, his forbidden emotions become the architecture of his silence. And yet, the woman, you, holds a different kind of power. It is not born from control over him, but from the way your essence lingers, the way your feminine energy remains etched in his psyche, long after your footsteps have vanished. Understand this. Men do not only miss your presence, they miss the reflection of themselves they saw in your gaze. When you looked at him with admiration, when you softened in his arms, when you allowed him to feel like a protector, he felt larger than life. And when that mirror disappears, he's forced to confront his own raw self, without the warmth of your reflection. That absence shakes him to the core. But here is where the story turns. The forbidden emotions of a man are not simply about loss. They are about initiation. Every heartbreak, every fracture, every haunting silence forces him into confrontation with his shadow, the parts of himself he cannot escape. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow as the unseen realm of the psyche, the denied, the repressed, the unloved. And when he loses you, all that was hidden in him rises to the surface. Regret forces him to confront the consequences of his neglect. Obsession forces him to face his fear of emptiness. Envy forces him to reckon with his own inadequacy. Shame forces him to see the gap between who he pretends to be and who he truly is. And grief forces him to feel the full weight of his humanity. For you, the woman who knows her worth, this is where wisdom lies. Never make his forbidden emotions your prison. Too many women feel the pull of masculine longing and mistake it for a responsibility. To heal him, to save him, to return so he may escape his own shadow. But this is not your burden. His emotions are his initiation, his silent teacher. Instead, your path is to remain rooted in your feminine power. The power of choice, of discernment, of radiant self-worth. Remember, you were never simply an accessory to his journey. You were the catalyst. You awakened him to feelings he would rather bury. And in doing so, you stirred the deepest chambers of his soul. Whether he transforms or remains imprisoned in his shadows is not your destiny to decide. It is his. And this is where many women falter. They hear the whispers of his regret. They feel the magnetic pull of his obsession. They see the heaviness of his grief, and they confuse it with love. But desire fueled by loss is not the same as devotion. A man can ache for you, yet still be unwilling to rise into the kind of partner you deserve. His emotions, no matter how consuming, are not proof of his readiness. So how does the empowered woman respond? With compassion, yes, but also with boundaries. With empathy, but also with clarity. You may acknowledge the storm in him, but you do not drown in it. You may recognize that you left a mark he cannot erase, but you also know that his healing is not your mission. For true feminine strength lies not in saving a man from his shadows, but in illuminating your own light so powerfully that you become untouchable by anything less than devotion. And here is the secret most never tell you. The man who truly awakens from his forbidden emotions does not come back with desperation. He does not crawl, beg, or manipulate. Instead, he returns, if he ever does, with reverence. With recognition of who you are, not who he wants you to be. With the awareness that he must meet you as an equal, not a wounded boy asking to be mothered. That is the distinction between obsession and love, between shame and transformation, between grief and renewal. If this journey into the hidden psychology of love is resonating with you, pause for a moment and let your presence here be felt. Subscribe, share your thoughts below, and join this space where we unravel the mysteries of the heart together. Because the more you understand, the freer you become. The dance between masculine wounding and feminine power is as old as time itself. From ancient myths to modern relationships, the story repeats: a man loses the woman who carried the essence of the sacred feminine, and his soul is thrust into a descent. Yet within this descent lies his potential for rebirth, if he dares to face it. But for the woman, the true challenge is not in watching his pain, but in remembering who she is within it. Because when he grieves, obsesses, envies, or shames himself, the energy calls to you. His sorrow has a magnetic pull, tempting you to step back into his world, to comfort, to soothe, to mend. This is the archetype of the nurturer, the eternal mother energy within you. But if you confuse it for love, it becomes a trap. Too many women surrender their power in these moments. They see his brokenness and feel their heart soften. They hear the silence in his voice and believe that if they return, if they give once more, they can heal what was fractured. But what often happens? The cycle repeats. For unless he chooses to rise from his forbidden emotions with courage, he will pull you back only to lose you again. Carl Jung would call this the work of individuation, the path of becoming whole. No man can bypass it by leaning on the feminine to heal what he must face alone. And no woman can sacrifice herself on the altar of his shadows without dimming her own light. The truth is this: your presence awakened him, but your absence initiates him. It is the emptiness you leave behind that forces him to reckon with himself. And though it may break your heart to know he feels such torment, you must also see the higher design. Sometimes the greatest gift you give a man is not your return, but your distance, the sacred boundary that demands he evolve if he wishes to meet you again. And here lies the paradox of feminine energy. To stand in your power does not mean to harden, to close, or to carry bitterness. It means to remain soft but sovereign, compassionate but unwavering. It means to allow his storm to rage without letting it consume you. You are not the healer of his forbidden emotion. You are the mirror. You reflected back to him the truth of who he was and the truth of what he'd lost. And that reflection will linger in him long after the world believes he has moved on. Now pause and ask yourself, how many women have walked this path before you? How many have mistaken his regret for repentance, his obsession for devotion, his grief for growth? How many have returned, only to find themselves standing before the same man, unchanged, still bound by the very shadows that pushed her away the first time? This is why feminine wisdom is not only about love, but about discernment. You must look not at his emotions, but at his actions. Does he rise? Does he face his shadow? Does he grow into the kind of man who can truly honor you? Or does he remain in the same cycle, forever haunted, forever yearning, but never transforming? Because here's the secret most women do not realize. A man can miss you deeply, ache for you endlessly, and still not be capable of loving you rightly. His longing is not always proof of his readiness. And so your path becomes clear. Stand in the radiance of your worth. Recognize the power you hold, not as the object of his obsession, but as the embodiment of a truth he cannot escape. You are not the wound. You are the awakening. You are not the weight he carries, and you are the mirror he cannot shatter. The man may remain lost in his forbidden emotions, or he may rise into his wholeness. But your destiny is not chained to his choice. Your destiny is to stand sovereign in your feminine essence, untouchable in your knowing, radiant in your self-worth. And now, the story comes full circle. The forbidden emotions that grip a man after losing the woman he cannot replace are not just fleeting shadows. They are teachers, merciless yet necessary. They reveal the places he has hidden from himself, the illusions he has clung to, the masks he has worn. They drag him down into his own underworld, where only truth remains. But your path, as the woman, is not to descend with him. It is to walk your own ascent. For there is a dangerous lie many women believe, that if he suffers enough, he will change, that his regret will birth devotion, that his grief will forge commitment. But suffering does not guarantee transformation. Pain can harden just as easily as it can awaken. This is why your strength lies not in waiting for him, but in choosing yourself. When you choose your peace over his turmoil, when you choose your light over his shadow, you affirm the deepest truth of feminine energy. Love does not mean sacrifice of self. Love means standing so rooted in your worth that no storm, not even the storm of a man's forbidden emotions, can pull you under. Remember this. Men who truly transform do not return with the same games. the same words, the same half measures. They return differently. They return with presence, with clarity, with reverence. They no longer ask you to carry their shame. They meet you in your sovereignty. They no longer hide their grief. They stand vulnerable, yet grounded. They no longer chase you from obsession. They approach with devotion. But whether he rises or remains broken is not yours to decide. His journey belongs to him. And sometimes the most powerful act of love you can give, to him and to yourself, is to let go. For what is more magnetic than a woman who knows her own value? What is more irresistible than the energy of one who does not beg, does not chase, does not fold herself small to fit into the cracks of a man's wounds? The feminine in her true power is not desperate. She is discerning. She does not wait for permission to shine. She radiates regardless. So if you have ever felt the pull of his regret, if you have ever sensed the weight of his obsession, if you have ever caught the flicker of envy in his silence, or the tremor of shame in his voice, remember, these emotions are his initiation, not your anchor. They are the lessons he must wrestle with in the solitude of his own becoming. And you are free to rise, free to choose joy without apology, free to walk forward without waiting for him to catch up, free to honor the love that once was without chaining yourself to what no longer is. In the end, the greatest power a woman holds is not in how deeply a man regrets losing her, but in how fiercely she honors herself after she has let him go. For when you embody that truth, you no longer exist as the one who was lost. You exist as the one who chose. So let him feel his forbidden emotions. Let him walk through his storm. Let him face the shadow he once denied, for his path is his own. And yours? Yours is to remember the sacred truth whispered through every great myth, every tale of love and loss, every cycle of heartbreak and healing. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses. If these words stirred something in you, subscribe to my narrative for more journeys into love, psychology, and the soul. Share this with someone who needs the reminder. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.